Ed Husic, welcome to 7:30.
Good evening, how are you?
Now, I'm very well, thank you. Now, the Coalition says its housing policy will freeze changes to the National Building Code in order to bring down the costs of building new homes. Is there too much red tape associated with building homes?
Well, I'd make this point without going to all the ins and outs of a complex policy area. The National Construction Code gives a set of national standards about the way we build homes in this country. It's the best protection against shoddy building, and it also keeps pace with changes on safety, energy efficiency and livability. So what that means is that we want homes that are comfortable to live in, that we're confident have been built properly and to standard. And we also want to be able to save money on our power bills by the type of energy efficiency measures we can put in place. Now, Peter Dutton said he would freeze any changes for 10 years on that code. That is both dangerous and costly. A call made by him on the run for a cheap headline that households will pay the price for.
Now, let me just put this to you, however. The Master Builders Association, they said they don't want to, they're not asking for the 10-year pause, they're not asking for the 10-year freeze, rather, that Peter Dutton has asked for, but they do want a pause. Have you talked to the building industry about why they think that's important to bring down costs?
Well, Peter Dutton complained about energy efficiency standards in the last round of the construction code. Let's just be clear about this. These were changes that were devised by the last coalition government and that they didn't consult thoroughly on and effectively brought them into play.
Just come back to, that's a fair point, but just come back to the question about Master Builders.
This goes to the heart of it.
Mm-hmm.
When I came in as the chair of the Building Ministers meeting to oversight the code, this was one of the big issues that the industry had said, that consultation could have been done way better and the timeframes for implementing improved. Now, we're working on that. We had to get the last code through, but they include changes on energy efficiency that are good for Australians and good for their lower power bills. We will always, and I've improved the consultation with industry, we'll always talk with industry on that. But some of the figures, for example, that Peter Dutton used to back in this call are highly contested, are probably 10 times higher than the actual cost, and I'd challenge the coalition to step forward with proof about why they reckon the cost is as high as it is, because it just doesn't match reality.
Let's go to the weekend's announcements by the Coalition on their housing policy. They're putting up a $5 billion fund to fast-track infrastructure to enable house building, largely in greenfield sites. It's got a lot of support from the building industry. How much is Labor prepared to spend on infrastructure to fast-track building?
All the Coalition has done is taken the money that we have already allocated to work with states and territories on improving zoning and approvals, and what they've done is, instead of taking the approach we have with the states and territories, they've shifted that money to the private sector. Our approach is to pay on results. Their approach is to siphon money in ways that are not clear towards private property developers and not be clear about whether or not they're actually delivering. That's the big difference. So the amount of money is the same, but the way it gets spent is very different.
Let me just ask you about this, because $3 billion of the money that the government has committed in incentive payments to the states, that will only be paid on delivery and in 28-29, and only if the states exceed what are already very high targets. How does that help the states with a crisis today?
I think it's important. It goes to the heart of what you just said, which is we're paying on delivery. We want to make sure that Australians get results, and the states and territories have signed up to that. They want to be able to get those payments, and they also are interested in seeing results themselves. And in some cases, there have been approvals in the improvements, I should say, in the approvals around social and affordable housing, for example, in Victoria, as a result of the work that we've done with that state. So
let me just put this to you. It's still a long way away. They may welcome the promise, but wouldn't it make more sense in the midst of a crisis for the government to offer the states milestone payments along the way rather than wait till 2029?
I think a number of things. One is we'll always work with the states and territories and have a cooperative way. Unlike the previous government, we want to work with different levels of government to deliver.
Does that mean that you are open to converting some of that money to milestone payments for the states?
Well, look, I mean, that is a proposition that will get managed either through National Cabinet or with housing ministers, and it's not my place to make a decision on that. But I think you would accept, and a lot of your viewers would accept, there are no quick fixes in this. It does take time to build homes. We want to get on with it. We've got an ambitious package to back in that, but you have to appreciate too, it does take time. So it's not through the snap of a finger or fingers that you will deliver that housing, but you've got to start somewhere, and that's where we've begun.
I want to ask you a question about your constituency and your approach and your attitude to the conflict in the Middle East. There was hope after the killing of Yahya Sinwar that there might be an opportunity for a ceasefire. That looks like it's not going to happen. Israel's attacks in northern Gaza have continued with significant casualties for women and children. In December, you called Israel's military action in Gaza very disproportionate, was the phrase you used. How do you describe it now?
Well, absolutely. I think the words that you just referenced back that I used back in December, I think a lot of people would feel the same today.
You personally, how do you describe it now?
Well, it's absolutely been disproportionate. I think the concern that I've expressed, and I will continue to express, is that innocent people should not be paying the price that they are. 43,000 deaths for Palestinians, the killing of 43,000 Palestinians is absolutely horrendous, and we do need to speak up on that. And that's even before you consider potentially how higher that death toll might be, particularly for people that have been affected by inability to get health care or attention to their health needs in the course of all that. And that's before you even get to considering what's happening in Lebanon. And so I have also expressed the view that I've been deeply concerned with the inability of the Israeli government to demonstrate its sincere and concrete commitment to the maintenance of international humanitarian law. And by that I mean being able to make a difference, distinguish between civilian and combatant. I've been on the record saying Hamas must be held to account for the horrors of October 7. And I've felt for Israelis that have lost loved ones through the horrific attacks on October 7, but I equally feel, and in particular for the women and children who paid a much higher price if they were Palestinian in being killed through that military action, the sooner we get a ceasefire, the better, and importantly, longer term, the rebuilding of Gaza and the establishment of a state of Palestine will be one of the best ways to secure peace in that part of the world longer term.
There are two challengers to Labor seats in Western Sydney. Now, they use much stronger language than you to describe Israel's actions in Gaza. Can you compete with candidates who are freer to express their views on the conflict than you are?
I don't look at it as a competition, frankly. I think about how I will express myself as an individual parliamentarian and a cabinet minister. I've tried to be upfront to express views that I believe are shared by a lot of Australians concerned about what they've seen on their screens. I'm not interested in competitions. I want compassion. I want people to be protected, particularly innocent civilians. It is up to others to make those calls, but I feel deeply about this issue, like many Australians do. We need to see peace. We need to see rebuilding. We need to see a state of Palestine established so that Israelis and Palestinians can rightly lead a peaceful and safe existence.
Ed Husic, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
I appreciate it, Sarah. Thank you.